So, I hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. I didn't do. I just sat around and relaxed and did nothing other than go over the sequence of events with this crazy thing and this stupid crap about this carbon seal. So what was happening was I couldn't get the springs on, whether it was this short wood, which I believe somebody cut, or one of the taller ones that's normal size. Here's the other one here. And I remember everything I said the exact same thing on the 20 horse. I said, wow, that sounds familiar. Wow, that sounds familiar. And then with the 20 horse, taking everything apart, to my record knowledge, there was an O-ring on here first. Because both of these O-rings were in my bag and tag stuff. You know, I bag everything up. I'm pretty sure that the 20 horse still has or has an extra O-ring, because what happened was a guy has been commenting on my videos lately. His name is Frank, good guy, and he said, man, you're putting that O-ring in, that's why you can't get this thing on. And I'm like, well, that's the way I did it on the 20, and I memorized the sequence. If you look at the schematic, it's bearing, large O-ring, small O-ring, carbon seal, retainer, spring, small retainer, and the clip. So while doing this one, so let me go back and double check the schematic. I was like, yep, that was the same sequence. But if you look at these two, you can see they're kind of flat, you know, where they were squeezed in. But I went back and looked at the video, and there was no separate O-ring. So Frank told me, said the O-rings are inside of the carbon seal. Now in here looking at it, it just looks like plastic in there. It doesn't really look like an O-ring. It looks like plastic. So I took this thing and I stuck it in there, and I said, son of a gun, that is an O-ring in there. So at first I wasn't convinced what he was saying, but he's like, no man, I've got a whole bunch of these things laying around. The O-ring goes inside. So I'm like, well, I just did the 20, and I'm pretty sure I put one of these O-rings in there first, and I had the same problem. A little tough getting back on, but I got it on. And then I'm thinking again, like, where did these O-rings come from? They're the perfect fit. You know, I didn't go digging around for O-rings. I don't have a bucket full of O-rings laying around. You know, whatever I take off goes back on. So when I replayed the videos that showed this crankshaft laying there, no O-ring on it. So how that happened was from the 20 horse. And we all know at this point that 20 horse, if you watched and followed that crazy saga, somebody had gotten in that motor before me. Same with this thing. You don't know where this thing has been, who's been in it and out of it, blah blah blah. 40 years, you know, this thing's been around. So on that 20, it had the pistons, the cylinders were honed, the pistons looked new, the rings looked new. Those weren't the pistons of a 40-year-old outboard. Somebody had gone in there and started the damn thing, had super high compression, hard to pull. So I'm thinking they probably thought the same thing I thought and put an O-ring in there according to the schematic setup. Because nowhere on the schematic, and I looked in the manual I have, Nowhere does it say put the O-ring in the carbon seal. So when Frank suggested I do that, I said, man, it doesn't make any sense to me, because this thing's just going to be like this. It's just going to be floundering around in there. This is carbon plastic. They add carbon to the plastic to make it stronger. So how is this O-ring really sealing the gap between, you know, the shaft and the case? You know, that's where it's going to leak, right there. So it didn't make any sense to me that the O-ring was inside. I said, no, it's got to seal that. It's got to be pushed up against it. I'm almost sure I did it that way on the 20 horse. So, and then in this light too, especially looking at this, it just looks like molded plastic in there. Then I went on eBay and looked up these parts, and there they were sitting there, and they were all hollow. And I'm like, well, if they go together, why aren't they being sold together, as a match, as a set? It would make more sense to sell it that way. Long story short, that goes in there. Once they get this like this, it's in there properly, then everything should put right back on. So that's kind of like, the end of the story as far as I'm concerned. The only way to find out with the 20 is to go back and watch all those videos and try to find where, I took that off, and see if there's an O-ring in there. And still, like I said, where did these O-rings even come from? There they are. They're showing up in my bag and tag parts stuff. They don't go anywhere else on this thing. Anyway, that's the the story. But like I said, nowhere in the manual could I find, it's a C-lock, I think that's how it's pronounced, manual. Nowhere in there I could find anything about putting that O-ring inside this thing. So the whole thing is a little bit weird. But it's over and done with, thank God, because the last thing I wanted to do was come out here and wrestle around with that thing again. Let's see if I can weasel this thing on here. I'm going to go with the normal, regular size spring. Now I was talking about too how these have that polished area, which looked like the back of this thing was rubbing on it, but it could also be that this spring where it's supposed to be is rubbing on the outside. That's why it's left polished on the inside. And I looked around to see if I could find the old set. Like I said, I've had 3 or 4 of these over the years, but I couldn't find them. So they must have got tossed along the way. That's the last pair. But too late now. Let's get this thing on here, if I can. Like I said, this damn spring come on, baby. I might have to go with this cut one. There's still not a whole lot of room, whether that O-ring is back there or not. It's half on. Come on, baby. Boom. Still half. Come on. I can't wait. I got these overhead lights. Can't wait to get all this wired up the way it's supposed to be. Because, I got this one glaring. I hate fluorescent. I hate fluorescent. Come on, she's almost in there. Yeah. She's in. I see that wasn't too hard. Alright, get this head off of here. The head that came with this 25 was new. Remember, it had no paint on it. That's how I knew it was new. It's soaking in the soak. And I was getting it mixed up. See how easy it is to get this crap mixed up? It does not have the old gasket on it still. This is the one, still had a gasket on it. Same head. So all I gotta do is take these coils off, put the ones on that were on there that I know were working, and then top end ignition, get this thing on the motor. Alright, so the ones that were on the original, they're pretty rough. Then I got these, a little bit better. Then I went through some of the stuff Charlie sent me, brought me, and I got these. They look good. Now, pretty good feeling. They're not in this bag because they were bad. This is my driver coil, condensers, a nice set of points would be nice too if there's any in here. If I remember correctly, points on this thing were a little. Here's what was on there. It nasty. I gotta clean it up. I got the retainer and other stuff soaking. So let me get this cleaned up. Plus two, I think those points are, I've seen worse. But you know, it's, like I said, it's gonna be like the 20 if you spent the time and watched like 40 friggin' episodes of what I went through with that thing. And right there at the end, I said, I just want to see it run by itself. It was right before I had to move and stuff. And by God, fired her up, walked away. She ran by herself. And I said, it will run. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Take me to Jupiter and Mars or something like that. Oh yeah, baby. It's a nice one right here. Hee hee hee. See, on this one, it doesn't have two holes in it. Now the one that I had before, I was gonna mix and match. What did I do with it? Here. Seems a little smaller. They don't have no holes in it. So this one's only gonna get this screw, and that screw in there on the do-sticky. Oh, I gotta put a little grease on there. Boy, too, I forgot. I gotta still pressure wash that crap. But this will take care of today. Now, when I do this for final, I'll mix a little Molly lube and two-stroke, grease everything up. Come on, baby. Wow, this thing only wants to go on in one place. There it goes. Now this one was missing, but I put it in the other day. Alright, back in business. Ooh, that's nice and smooth. Plus this roller needs to be cleaned. It doesn't even roll. Let's throw a little W on it. See if I can loosen her up a little bit. There she goes. There There she goes. Nasty. Damn, all that came off that roller. Let me go double check this puppy, my cam, and see if it's the right part number and make sure everything's good. See, here's the other one. It's nice and looks like brand new, shiny. Let's see part numbers. I know they're different. 315 583 maybe. Well, of course it had to be the ugly one. It's not that bad. But anyway, on these, you know, it says on there, on the top, it says top. And that just means that's the top. That don't mean that's the highest point on the cam to set the points. Then they start printing right next to where it says top, they printed set. That's where you want to set it. It's right before it says top. Oh man, I hate when this happens. How did it come off, but it won't go back on? There it goes, I think. Damn it. I didn't smack this thing to get it off. I haven't touched this thing. She gets right there. I don't like doing that. I shouldn't have to do that. What's the matter for you, huh? Come on. Where's that grease? Throw a little of this on there, see if anything happens. Man. I'm not hitting anything, right? No. Please, you know, it's always something stupid like this. Fart around, fart around. You know, it's going on crooked. Give me a socket. Man. It's going to clear those points where it's at. But that stinks. Said I didn't have to do anything to get it off. That's nice. Have to set everything once it's on the motor. This is nice. Let's get this plugged in. Now I need to get all these back in because I had taken them out to soak them and put that rust crap on them, which is like that OSPO. And what happens is they turn black, get this like gooey coating on them. Then you go to clean them off and they rust right back up again. So if you don't oil them and stuff, whatever you got to do to them, after you get all the rust off, they just rust right back up again. So I've been dipping them in the mix to soak. Just keep rinsing and rinsing and rinsing. Let's see if I can get them all. You know, all the heads on them are a little rusty, which is making things bad. So, get the right saquito. The right saquito. The starter mount. It's down here. Got to double check that starter motor. See how it's working. Get a new push button for it. So we'll do that one last. Get this pump back on. So you see how this pump is facing. This goes out to the carb. This is the top of the pump. On the real Johnson Evinrude pump, and some of them, it'll say up, which means this should be up like that. This don't worry about. This can be in any position you want it. You know, if you're running the fuel line all the way around the back, you could put this pointing anywhere you want it. This should really be pointing down. So in order to do that, you have to reconfigure this whole thing. And they have these little lumps and bumps and stuff on them. And rather than try to explain it, if you haven't never taken one of these apart, it's a real pain in the ass. You have to lay it out, and then there's charts that show you, you know, which way it needs to be configured. Well, that's what happened to me with the 20 horse. I ordered the pump, a cheap Chinese pump, and it came in this type of configuration. Well, it would work for a short period of time. Then all of a sudden it's not working. Or I'd pull the fuel line off and pull it, and fuel would come spitting out. But it was still the wrong configuration, so I had to take the original pump, take it apart, lay it out piece by piece, and take the new pump, lay it out piece by piece. Then these sections, got 3 sections, they have to be turned in the proper order for this to point down, and then this has to set up. You know, you can't just take this whole thing and turn it. You know, it doesn't work that way. So that's probably going to happen to this thing too. So right now, you know, it's on here. We'll get to it. Pain in the butt. Unless I got something already configured. And it was, you know, it was working when I had this thing running for the short period of time that I did get it to run, which is what the one on the 20 horse would do too. It would run, but then it wouldn't keep up. I believe #1. So we'll plug her in. #1. Also, I mentioned before too, these little black plugs are reusable if you got the patience. You know, pull them out, stick something in there and pops it out, the old wire out, open them up, clean them up, put the new wire in, or you can buy them. Yeah, these are good. All right. So over here I use the 3/8 stainless bolts instead of those big flathead screws, because I was missing one. And these look cooler anyway. All right, so this was one of the cars I had set up when I was test running the 20 horse, and I marked this one 51D jet, high-speed jet. I never got to run this one because it had the primer pump nipple up here, so I never got around to hooking up the primer pump. So I don't know what that would be like on a 74-25. But this is the one I was running on there, the 49D. But this one I ran on that 20 horse, so she ran great. I was real happy about it. But then I ended up with the original. So this is the one I'm going to start out with, because it's already, you know, it's ready to go. For crank this baby up and stuff and see what happens. And It's starting to look like a motor.
You know the channel.